Hi everyone, and welcome to Tame Your Unruly Inbox, tips to make Gmail finally work for you. My name is Carrie Odgers-Lax, and I'm a tech coach with the Summit Public Schools in Summit, New Jersey. I'm available on Twitter at LaxEdTech, on LinkedIn at Carrie Odgers-Lax, or you can email me at laxedtech@gmail.com. If you want to follow up on anything from this presentation or you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. You can access this presentation using this bit.ly link. Remember that capitalization does matter, or this QR code. And if you take a quick peek in the top left corner, I want to draw your attention to the tabs that'll be available on every slide in this presentation. So the first one will take you to the DitchCon website. The second will take you back to the agenda for this presentation. And on every slide, you'll find a link to the Google support page for that skill in case you want to reference back or find step-by-step directions. I want to give a shout out to Eric Santos for the idea for this slide and share a few tips for engaging with today's presentation. Of course, it's video-based, so you can pause or rewind at any time. You can bookmark this presentation using the bookmark star, and of course, you can click the Drive Plus icon in the top left corner of the presentation window to add a shortcut to your drive. Now, today's presentation is divided into roughly 10 sections. We're going to start by discussing Chrome profiles and the importance of syncing to Chrome. We're going to take a look at the standard functions in your inbox and then move on to the organizing functions in your inbox. We're going to dig into labels a bit and their importance in organizing your email. We're going to talk about advanced search skills and then take a look at the settings that you can customize for your inbox. We're going to take a quick look at the different inbox types available and discuss how powerful it can be to employ priority inbox. We're going to review a few tips for sending emails. We're going to very briefly look at the side panel. That is actually a presentation all in itself. And we're going to finish up with some strategies for deleting emails in bulk to clean out your inbox to make it as quick and painless as possible. Now you might be wondering why start with Chrome profiles, and the reason is because the best thing you can do in a Google environment to ensure that all of your work syncs across every device that you log in on is to use your Chrome profile. So let's take a look at how to make that happen. Up here in the top right corner of your browser window is this very small Chrome profile icon. Now that's not to be confused with this larger icon that's found in the top right-hand corner of application windows. This profile can be used to add accounts to specific applications, but that's not the best way to access multiple accounts. What you want to do is create a separate Chrome profile for each account that you want to access. And then make sure that sync is on for all of those accounts. You can manage your Chrome profiles from this gear. You can delete, add, or rename each of the profiles. You can also add profiles down here, and you can select from among this list to open a new browser window with that profile. When you click on the gear, it'll open the Chrome profile picker, and from here, you can click the triple dots in the top right corner of any card. You can edit the name or delete the profile. And of course, you can click on any card to open a new browser window with that profile. So let's get started by taking a look at the standard functions you can find in your inbox. Now we'll be talking about each of these features in more detail in the following slides, but right now I just want to give you a sense of where things are located in your inbox. So to start, we have the archive button, and you'll notice that most of these features are available above your email list and to the right of each individual email. Next, we have report spam. Now this one's only available at the top of your email list. Then delete, then mark as read or unread, and this is a toggle, so if you've read the email, the button will be to mark it as unread and vice versa. And then finally, we have snooze. Now I want to take a quick minute to really examine the difference between archiving and deleting. You may see a lot of advice online to just select all of the emails in your inbox and archive them. And that's not terrible advice because it does accomplish the goal of getting all those emails out of your inbox. What happens is they're moved to a label called all mail. And there, they'll be saved indefinitely, they're searchable, they retain all of their attachments. However, all mail tends to become this vast wasteland of messages, and it becomes extremely difficult to find anything that you're looking for, even if you have some fairly sophisticated search skills. And the other problem with archiving is that it counts towards your total space used. So all of those emails that maybe you really should delete, that you don't need, but you archive instead, those count against your total space. Now remember, personal Gmail accounts come with only 15 gig of space, so that can be a pretty costly strategy over time. On the other hand, if you identify emails that you no longer need and delete them, you accomplish the same goal of cleaning out your inbox, but those emails are moved to trash, where they're permanently deleted after 30 days. So for 30 days, they are searchable, they retain all of their attachments, you can find them when they're in the trash. But after that 30 days, once they're permanently removed, they're gone. But the net effect is that it frees up space in your account. I'm a big fan of doing the work up front, identifying the emails you don't need, and deleting them. Archiving is just kicking the can down the road, and it's going to create an entirely different set of problems later on. So let's move on to the snooze button. Now, this is one of my favorite tips for keeping your inbox organized. Because when an email comes in that maybe you don't have the time to deal with right away, or maybe you want to schedule for a specific time later on, you can go ahead and click that snooze button and choose from a bunch of presets: tomorrow, later today, next week, or select a specific date and time. So what are some ways that you might use this feature? You get an email that you know you need to take care of that day, but you can't give it your attention immediately. You also know that between now and when you finally get to that email, you will probably have received another dozen or more emails, burying it down in your inbox. You can snooze that email so it will appear at the top of your inbox later that day or at a specified date and time. Another example might be if you book a reservation, maybe a hotel reservation or a flight, and you do that months in advance, but you want that reservation to be available to you when you're leaving on that trip. You can go ahead and snooze that email to come back a day or so before that trip, so that email is right at the top of your inbox when you need it. So along with snooze, Google has a feature called nudges that inspires some pretty strong opinions out there in Google land. I love nudges, and the reason why is because they can resurface those emails in your inbox that may have slipped between the cracks. And we all have those. No matter how strong your inbox game is, there are going to be emails that you miss. Now, there are two types of nudges, and you can choose to receive one, the other, or both. The first is for emails you've received but haven't replied to. This is incredibly helpful for those emails that you say, oh, I'm going to get to that later, and it falls to the bottom of your inbox. It's really nice to have Gmail come up and say, hey, you haven't done anything with this yet. The second is a little more controversial. That's for emails you've sent that you haven't received a reply to. So in this case, you're the person doing the nudging. But it can be useful just to know you haven't received a reply so that you can figure out how you want to proceed from there. The next thing we're going to take a look at is the organizing functions available in your inbox. And those include the ability to get a little extra real estate by closing the left panel, and then creating, applying, and moving labels, indicating emails that are important, and then using the advanced search features and creating filters. Now, this first feature is a neat way to get just a little more room to read your emails. In the top left corner of your window, you're going to find triple lines. That's a button that'll allow you to open and collapse the side panel, which can give you a little privacy by hiding your labels, and it also can provide a little additional space to read emails. And that brings us to labels, which I really encourage you to embrace. If you're coming to Gmail from another mail client, there's a pretty good chance that your mindset is all about folders. And the problem with that is that folders are very limiting, whereas labels open up an entirely new world of possibility. The primary reason for this is that you can apply multiple labels to the same email. So all of those emails you have that fit into more than one category, that reach into different parts of the work that you do, you can classify them, group them, tag them, apply labels for all of those different categories. You don't have to choose just one when it comes to labels. This makes labels the perfect tool to help you track the status of tasks and to organize your emails and get them out of your inbox. And the really great thing is that you can color code your labels, and then you can use filters to automatically apply those labels to incoming emails, which will provide visual cues when you're assessing your inbox. And finally, you can search by label and within labels. To create a label, simply open any email and click the Labels button. You can then select as many labels as you like, or if you don't see a label that you want, you can create a new one right from this menu. Now, applying a label to an email can help you to better identify what's in your inbox, but it doesn't remove emails from your inbox. To do that, you need to move an email to a label, and this button is located just to the left of the button you used to create a label. From this menu, you can select any of the labels that are available to you or create a new one. There is one significant difference between applying labels and moving an email into a label, though, and that is that you can only choose one. While you can apply as many labels as you like to an email, you can only move it into one label at a time. Labels are one of my favorite ways to keep my inbox organized. I love the fact that I can color code them, and at a glance I can get a sense of what's happening in my inbox. And I love that I can remove the clutter in my inbox by moving emails into a label. And we'll see later, I can then organize my inbox based on those labels. This is just one more argument for avoiding that sloppy shorthand of selecting all of your emails and moving them into archive. We can do better than that. Now, a few quick tips about the way labels are organized in your inbox. They're sorted alphabetically, but you can use symbols or numbers to move labels up to the top. You can use emojis in your label names, but if they lead the label name, they will affect the sort. So I would recommend placing emojis in the middle or at the end of your label name to avoid that. As we discussed before, you can color code your labels, slide over any label, hit the triple dots, and then go ahead and select your label color. And finally, you can nest labels, which is incredibly valuable if you're doing any kind of project work. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is how we identify emails in our inbox as important. Now, Google's way of doing that is with an importance marker, and these are determined by an algorithm. But the way Google determines what's important is by your interactions with emails. So if you're a power user and you open most of your emails, you will end up with an awful lot of importance markers, which kind of defeats the purpose. I think a better way of indicating important emails is with the star. Now, this is a manual process. You click on the star to indicate that an email is important. If you want to see all of the emails that you've starred, you can just go ahead and click that label in your inbox and they'll be displayed to the right. Now, I use starred for emails that I know I'm going to need in the next couple of weeks or the next couple of months, and when I need them, I'm not going to have the time to search for them. So I keep the number of emails that I star fairly low, and I go through my starred emails periodically and remove the star from the emails that no longer need it. So while you don't have to choose one, you can use both starred and important. In my book, starred is really the best way to tag an email as important. Now, if you only take one thing away from this entire presentation, I really think it should be to improve your search skills. Because no matter how skilled you are at managing your inbox, at some point you're going to need to knuckle down and search for what you're looking for. My recommendation is always to start simple. Use the search box right at the top of Gmail and keep your search terms as simple and streamlined as possible. Now, if you're already familiar with search operators, use them. That's fantastic. But if you're not, the best jumping off point is just a few simple search terms. Results here are going to include not only email messages, but also any Google files shared via email. Google's search chips are a great way to narrow down the parameters of your search, especially if you're not familiar with advanced search features or you're not comfortable typing in your own search operators. If you don't see what you want in this list, you can click through and check the full results, or you can move directly to advanced search. The advanced search features help you to move from a simple keyword search to more specific parameters. As an example, we can search emails specifically from or to someone. Now, this is different from simply typing an email into the search box where you're going to get every instance of that address, every email from that address, every email to that address, every reference of that address in the body of another email. If we specifically search from or to, we narrow that list down. You don't need to know the entire subject of an email to search the subject. Keywords will work just fine. The same goes for the body of an email. If you've got some very specific keywords, you can narrow that search down dramatically. You can also search in specific locations, specifying emails that are in your inbox or in starred. And I always recommend, if you truly can't find something, go ahead and search mail, spam, and trash. That takes into account everything in your Gmail and casts the widest net possible. Now, if you're looking for emails from a specific date range, you may find Google's interface a little wonky because it doesn't allow you to specify a begin and an end date. Instead, it asks you for a number of days within a target date. Once you click through, you'll see that Google creates a set of search operators to perform that search for you. So in this case, we're looking for emails that were sent after the 1st of January 2023, but before the 30th of January 2023. And it bears noting that dates have to be in that year, month, day format. So a few other operators that I've found to be particularly helpful are your address operators. So that's going to be your from, to, CC, and BCC. And you'll notice that the operator is always followed by a colon and then the modifier, no spaces. So in this case, it would be from, colon, and then the address. Your location-based operators, in is going to be your all-purpose operator. You can use that for anything. You want to search in trash, you want to search in mail, you want to search in starred. It works for everything, including labels. But if you prefer and you're searching a label, you can go ahead and type label colon and then the name of the label. And then we have the operators that define characteristics of email. In this case, has colon drive would be an email that has a drive file. We can be more specific and say has colon spreadsheet or has colon presentation, or we could go more general and say has colon attachment. Now, when you're in the advanced search features, you can choose whether you want to search your mail, your messages, that's going to be your Google Chat messages, or spaces. Search chips are also available to you here, and even if you have a fairly sophisticated understanding of search, the search chips can occasionally make some pretty great suggestions. But search isn't limited to just looking for emails. You can use filters along with search to apply specific criteria to emails as they come into your inbox. So let's work with an example that I bet everyone here has experience with, and that's calendar responses. If you're working in a school and they're using Google Calendar, or if you're working in a business and they're using Google Calendar, your inbox is full of these calendar invitations. Now, if you don't use your calendar, maybe you rely on them to let you know when you have an appointment. But if you're actively using Google Calendar, you don't need those responses filling up your inbox. Instead, we can set up a filter to mark them as read and move them to a label where we can go check them if we need to, but they're not filling up our inbox. So let's take a look at how to do that. In the advanced search, you're going to put your own email in the to field. In the has the words, you're going to write invite.ics or invite.vcs. So these are just two different types of calendar invites. The or tells the search to look for either one. We want to be sure we check the has attachment box, and then we can go ahead and click create filter. Now you have to be intentional about this because your obvious reflex is going to be to click the blue button, but that's simply search. You want to click create filter. Next, we need to decide what we're going to do with these emails. So we already talked about the fact that we're going to have these emails skip the inbox. We're going to mark them as read, and we're going to apply a label. And that label is going to be something we've created like calendar responses. That way, it's easy for us to access these emails anytime we need to look through them, anytime we need to search, but they're not clogging up our inbox. Now, another criteria that I use a lot and that may very well be pertinent if you're setting up a filter like this is also apply filter to. You probably have a lot of these emails in your inbox already. When you set up the filter, you can choose to have Google also apply the filter to all the emails already in your inbox. And then finally, we need to be sure we click Create Filter. Now, filters can also be created from within an email. So open any email and click the triple dots in the menu, and then click Filter Messages like these. From there, the process is the same. You'll need to select what you want to do with that label and then click Create Filter. Now, in those filters, we created labels. And one of the reasons I love labels is because you can narrow your search simply by clicking a label in your inbox. When you do, Google automatically creates a search with the appropriate search operators. You can modify that search by adding your own search operators, or you can use Google search chips to narrow from there. Now, this is a pretty neat little feature. If you hover over the sender of any email in your inbox, you'll get a contact card. On that contact card is a button that says Open Detailed View. If you click that, you'll get a side panel, and listed on that side panel, along with all the contact information, will be all of your recent interactions with that contact. Now, in this case, it's only showing messages, but if I also had calendar events or files that I shared in Drive with that contact, those would show up below the messages. And finally, if you subscribe to a lot of content and you have a hard time sorting it in your inbox, you can try creating task-specific emails, which you do by adding a plus sign and then any word before the @ domain. So if your email was Carrie, it could be Carrie plus financial, Carrie plus food, Carrie plus news @gmail.com. You can then use those emails to subscribe to content and then create filters that specifically look for emails to that address. This can be a great way to manage a lot of the same types of content and move them into a label without having to individually go through and create a filter for each and every newsletter or each and every piece of content that comes in. Now, the next thing we're going to take a look at are the settings you can use to help organize your inbox. And that starts with the quick settings, which you can access by clicking on the gear in the top right corner of a Gmail window. Now, from here, you can access all settings, but there's a lot you can do without having to click through. You can customize your Google apps like Chat and Meet, select a display density, choose a theme. You can select an inbox layout, choose whether or not you have a reading pane and where its location is. Finally, you can turn conversation view on or off, but take my word on this, you definitely want it on. So let's take a look at the different display densities that are available. The default provides the greatest amount of space between your messages, and it also includes these neat little preview chips for any attachments. But what's special about these chips is that they're also included for any Google Docs that are referenced as text links in the body of the email. So not just attachments, but also text links in the body of the email. The next density is comfortable, which is probably the one that most people are familiar with. There's a little less space between the messages, but still a nice amount, and attachments are indicated with the universal paperclip to the side. Compact is a pretty tight layout. I actually find it to be a little tough on the eyes. But if real estate is your primary concern and you need to see as many of the messages in your inbox as possible, compact might be a good choice for you. Changing your inbox type is one of those small things you can do that will yield huge results. But let's walk really quickly through the different types of inboxes, and then I'll explain why Priority Inbox outshines them all. Unfortunately, most people just stick with Google's default, which has a lot of potential, but the lack of any type of customization makes it virtually unusable. Google's default inbox has 3 tabs, which is actually a fantastic organization strategy. The problem is that they're assigned to 3 categories: primary, promotions, and social, and the distribution to those categories is determined by Google's algorithm. There's no way to customize those tabs, and only just so much you can do to train the algorithm where to distribute your emails. Now, important first is a really curious choice because important, of course, as we already discussed, is just a function of Google's algorithm. So if you choose an important first inbox, you're letting Google decide what you should see. Unread First divides your inbox into 2 sections with unread emails at the top and everything else at the bottom. This is great in that it puts the emails that you haven't seen yet at the top, but it also means that the section for everything else is left largely unorganized. Start First is the same concept, except it places your starred emails at the top with everything else at the bottom. Multiple inboxes are amazing and provide an incredible amount of customization, but they really are for more advanced users and aren't as easy to set up as some of the other inboxes. Priority Inbox is the Goldilocks of email inboxes. It's just right. It's absolutely perfect. So why should you choose Priority Inbox? With Priority Inbox, your inbox is divided into 4 sections, 3 of which you can customize. The 4th section is set to everything else. In other words, whatever's in your inbox, but not in one of the other 3 sections. The other 3 sections can display one of 4 presets or the contents of any label. To set a section to display the contents of a label, simply click More Options to see a list of your labels. You can also choose the number of emails that display in each section. In my experience, 5 is really too few, and 50 is entirely too many, especially if you're using all 4 sections. You end up scrolling for days. I've found that 10 is really the sweet spot for the number of emails to display. If you want to see all of the emails contained in a section, simply click the link in the top right corner of that section that indicates the total number of emails. Sections can be collapsed or expanded as needed by simply clicking the little caret to the left of the section. If the number one thing you can do to improve your email experience is to improve your search skills, number 2 is definitely switching to Priority Inbox. And number 3 is absolutely going to be grouping your emails into conversations. In just a few clicks, Conversation View can clean up more than half of the mess that's in your inbox by grouping conversations together in a thread. When you click on the thread, the oldest emails are at the top with the newest at the bottom, and you can individually review each email. You can mark any individual messages unread by clicking the triple dots in the top right-hand corner of the email window and then selecting Mark as Unread. If you've never used Conversation View, stop what you're doing right now and go and turn it on in your inbox. Not only does it do amazing things to organize and clean up your inbox, but it also makes it infinitely easier to trace back the evolution and follow conversations. These days, most of us have multiple roles that we fill, and we often use the same inbox to communicate for all of them. Creating multiple signatures is a great way to manage those different conversations. As an example, in addition to your teaching responsibilities, you might also be the supervisor for a club. You can have one signature that you use as a teacher with all of your appropriate links and contact information, and another that you use as the supervisor for the club with different contact info, links, etc. It's easy to create a new signature and to switch among your various options. Signatures can include images and links, but be careful that your image size isn't too large or you'll force your readers into a horizontal scroll. You can also customize the font type, size, and style. In addition, you can set one default for new emails and a different default for replies and forwards. Alternatively, you can use one signature as a default for all of your emails. You can manually select or change the signature right from the bottom of any email window. One nice thing about being able to specify a different, presumably smaller, signature in replies and forwards is that you don't have to have your customary full signature showing up repeatedly in a thread. Now, the last item in settings that we're going to take a look at is the out of office or the vacation reply. Now, I don't use these very often, but they can be incredibly helpful if you're going to be out of the office for a stretch, and they allow you to clarify whether or not you'll be reading and responding to messages during the period that you're away. Now, what's nice about the way these messages are handled is that in most cases, your vacation response is only sent to someone the first time they email you. Now, there are two exceptions to this. The first is if someone contacts you again after 4 days. And the second, and this is important to be aware of, is if you make any edits to your message, the next time someone emails you, they will receive your vacation reply, even if they had already received one. You can choose whether your response is sent to everyone, only to your contacts, or only to people in your organization. Something important to know is that if you check both of the boxes for only send responses to people in your contacts and only send them to people in your domain, then it will only be sent to people who meet both of those criteria. And as we finish up settings, it seems like a really important time to remind you that if you make any changes in your settings, you need to scroll to the bottom and click Save. Because if you don't, when you return to your inbox, none of the changes that you just made will be applied. Seriously, don't forget this step. It's insanely frustrating when you go through all the work of setting your inbox up the way you want it and then forget to save. And as we start to wrap things up, I want to take just a few minutes to review some tips for sending emails. One of the features you probably don't use now, but that I'd really love to encourage you to use is scheduled send. We may be on a society-wide course correct with work-life balance, but a lot of us still end up working in the evening, still end up working from home, and too many of us wake in the middle of the night, grab our phone, and start working then. But that doesn't mean that we need to send emails at those hours. We can work whenever it's convenient and schedule the email to send at a more appropriate time. Schedule send is also really helpful if you have recurring events so that you don't have to manually send those emails each time. Or if you're sending something to a recipient who you know is out of the office, you can schedule it to land in their inbox after they return so it's not buried under all the other messages they receive. Scheduling a message is incredibly easy to do. Just write the message, click the arrow to the right of the send button, click scheduled send, and then choose your time. You'll get a quick message letting you know when it's scheduled for and giving you the option to undo or to view your message. Couple of quick tips. If you're scheduling an email, remember that tomorrow might not mean tomorrow. Are you sending an email to a different time zone? Is it after midnight where you're writing your email? If you're using time-based language, make sure it's lined up with your scheduled send time. Better yet, avoid the entire mess and just use exact dates and times instead of time-based language like tomorrow, yesterday, etc. If you need to edit or cancel a scheduled email, all you need to do is click Scheduled in the main menu and then open the email. Email templates can be a lifesaver if you find yourself needing to send the same email over and over again and having to go scour your messages looking for when you sent it previously, copy it, and paste it into a new message. Instead, you can compose an email once, save it as a template, and then call it up whenever you need it. To activate this feature, all you need to do is go to your settings, click Advanced, and then Enable Templates. To set up a template, all you need to do is click the triple dots at the bottom of the window, then click Templates, then click Save Draft as Template. If you're updating a template you've already saved, all you need to do is hover over this arrow and select the template that you want to update. To use a template, simply select from the list. Quick note here that the subject line of your email will be the name of your template. If you need to delete a template, mouse over this arrow and select the template that you want to delete. Two quick pro tips. If you have a default signature that's applied to all new emails, make sure you don't include a signature in your template, otherwise it'll appear twice at the bottom of your email. And if you have text in your template that you need to personalize each time you send it, make sure you highlight that text in the template so that you don't miss anything before you send the email out. I love these templates and use them all the time to help organize conferences, to send students notices about compromised passwords, and for my new staff and back to school emails. My last tip for sending emails is actually one that I only just started using recently, and that is to send emails as attachments. All you need to do is select the email or emails you want from the list, click the triple dots in the menu, and then choose Forward as Attachment. And the emails will be added to the bottom of your message as attachments. This works really well when you need to share multiple communications with a new group and you don't want to have to forward multiple emails. If you're not using the side panel integration in Gmail yet, this is a really great time to check it out. There's so much to work with there. This is really a workshop all by itself. You can access your calendar, you can access Google Keep, you can access tasks, you can access your contacts. But the integration that's really helpful for organizing your inbox, I find, is tasks. One of the workflows that I find really helpful is to create tasks from email. So if you click on the tasks icon in the side panel, it'll expand the side panel and you'll have the ability to add a new task. But from any open email, you can click the add a task button and automatically add that email to your task list. The subject line of your email becomes the name of the task, and this may be something that you actually want to edit because sometimes people send emails like a question, which obviously doesn't make a terribly helpful task name, but it's easy enough to edit. You can schedule these tasks so that they appear in your calendar. You can even make this a repeating task. And the great thing is that a link to the email is included in the task. So when you're following up or you're looking back or you're not even sure what this task was about because you forgot to change the subject, you can go ahead and just click on the email. It opens immediately. You don't have to search for it. It's easy to add subtasks by clicking on the triple dots, and you can keep and switch among multiple lists just by dropping down the list menu. I like to immediately add any email that requires me to do something to my task list, even if I reply to it right away and take care of it on the spot. Having it in my task list is a quick way for me to go back and follow up with the senders to be sure that everything's okay or to answer any additional questions they might have. That extra level of customer service goes a long way in building relationships. This also means that I don't have to snooze that email to come back and remind me later, or mark it as unread and leave it hanging out in my inbox forever. All of the integrations in the side panel are fantastic, but if you're only going to pick one to investigate, I really encourage you to check out the tasks integration and see how you might be able to add it to your workflow. And that brings us to the last thing we're going to take a look at today, which is strategies that you can use for cleaning out your inbox. If you've reached the point where you're seriously considering abandoning your email rather than dealing with the emails in your inbox, working this strategy can get things under control in a surprisingly short amount of time. First, unsubscribe. Nothing's going to change if you don't unsubscribe to the newsletters and the sales content and everything else that's clogging your inbox on a regular basis. Decide what you need and want to keep. Employ the strategies from this presentation to keep them managed going forward, and unsubscribe from the things that you no longer want. So there are usually two ways that you can do this. At the top of many emails in Gmail, you'll find this unsubscribe link. If you see this link, use it. Great shortcut. If you don't, however, you're going to need to do a little sleuthing. You're going to need to scroll to the bottom of the email and look for a link to unsubscribe. Now, sometimes that's hidden. Sometimes it's actually the word unsubscribe. But other times it's going to say click here to change your settings, or click here to change your preferences, or if you no longer want to receive these emails, click here. So be persistent, scroll to the bottom, look for that unsubscribe link, and unsubscribe from any content that you're no longer using. Use filters. So now we talked in detail about strategies for creating filters, but this is one of the best ways to clean out an inbox that is absolutely overrun, because it allows you to identify lots of emails all at once and then get rid of them. Feel free to refer back to these sections of the presentation to create filters to identify types of content, or to use an email as an example and filter messages like these. Now, select all isn't here because I don't think that you're sensible enough to use select all. It's because in Gmail, if there are more than 50 conversations that match your search or your filter, you're going to receive a message that asks if you want to select all conversations that match this search. This shortcut is amazing because if you have hundreds or thousands of emails, you don't want to have to delete them 50 at a time. This allows you to select all 500, 700, 1,000, 10,000. This is a shortcut you are definitely going to want to use. Now, you're not going to delete all of the content in your inbox, and you're going to need something to do with the emails that you're not deleting. Moving them to a label is your best strategy. Those can be labels that are topic specific. They can be labels that are for specific bands of years. Maybe you want to do them a year at a time. Maybe your email inbox is pretty old and you want to do them a couple or 5 years at a time. But you can use filters to identify all the emails from that time period and then move them into a label. And finally, pace yourself. If your inbox is completely out of control, you're not going to get it back under control in one night. Chip away at it, and before you know it, you'll have gone from inbox disaster to something that approximates inbox zero. Thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you to the crew who runs the Ditched conference. They are amazing. Shout out to Nicole. And if you have any questions or want to follow up on anything from this presentation, please don't hesitate to reach out.